On the deadline day for the fee submissions, it turns out that 68% of universities in England have opted to charge the full £9,000 in fees to their students from 2012. 46 universities plan to charge the full £9,000 for all courses, that's a shade over two-thirds, and another 6 will charge £9,000 for some courses. And this means the average fee will be higher than expected. One estimate today puts it at over £8,700. The fact that the majority of universities are charging the full £9,000 is in sharp contrast to what the Business Secretary Vince Cable claimed on this programme last year.
I think a substantial minority. The 6,000 is the basic level, and the assessment we have is that most universities will be at that level or below, because universities are going to have to become more efficient like everybody else, and they're going to have to deliver courses that meet student demand.
But you just said substantial minority. You're quoted today as saying it's in exceptional circumstances. Exceptional circumstances and substantial minority do not belong in the same sentence.
No, they do. A minority...
Substantial?
Yes, I think a substantial minority may well decide to go above that.
Well, that was the Business Secretary. He wasn't the only figure to have got his estimate wrong over student fees. During a Channel 4 News special programme on student fees last October, Professor Michael Arthur, Vice Chancellor of the University of Leeds, said he would only need to charge £7,000 a year. We now know they'll be charging the maximum. Well,
then I would need to charge a fee today of £7,000 to stand still.
Well, joining us now is the Universities Minister David Willetts, 2 University Vice Chancellors, Professor Malcolm Gillies from London Metropolitan University and Professor Michael Arthur, who we just heard from the University of Leeds, and by sixth form students Emma Weedon and Maryam Obeid, both of whom will be affected by the new fee system. So, Minister, why don't we start with the question of how you got the sums wrong?
Well, we'll still have to see what the outcome is, but we believe that if you look behind that headline figure of £9,000, and we have 2 examples here with 2 universities represented, there'll be many ways in which fees will be lower, especially for students from low-income families, so the average could be significantly lower than £9,000.
Well, but we think the average is going to be £8,700, and that's not very significantly lower.
Nobody can know. It'll depend on the actual fees that university students face next autumn. But I personally think it's likely to be rather lower than that estimate that you gave today, John.
Well, now, Vice Chancellor of London Met, Malcolm Gillies, does that chime with your expectations?
I think we agree with Michael last year that it is possible to run a good course for around £7,000. So my university will have an average of around 6,850, but a very wide spread. So we agree some courses will be at 9,000.
But your penalty is that you've slashed your amazing offering of 566 courses down to 160. Well, that's a 70% cut in what you used to offer.
It is a number of courses, but 80% of our students study on 80 of those courses. So what we've done is tidied up a very large tail, but we've also, yes, made some hard decisions about the demand and the cost and the way in which courses are likely to track for students coming in 2012. So we've revised our curriculum very thoroughly so that we can give the best value to the students.
What about your £7,000, Michael Arthur?
Well, when you asked me that question, it was in advance of the comprehensive spending review. So we now know, after that was delivered, that the cuts that we were expecting then of 65% rose to 80%. We also know that there was a significant cut in our capital expenditure, capital grant, and we also know that there's a greater expectation on us to improve access through the Office of Fair Access, and there are costs associated with that. So we decided that we would need at least 8,000 to stand still, but we also decided that as a world-class university we wanted to invest in our student experience and really improve the standard of what we do. And we made an active decision to go for 9,000 so that we had an investment margin so that we could really improve things. And it's really important that in this country we have some of our universities, some of our best universities that are really able to compete internationally.
Well, that's accepted, but I mean, it sounds as if you need no help from the Minister then. I mean, he's done his deed, he cut you 80% in your funding for your fees, and you're sanguine.
Well, I mean, none of us are completely happy about what happened.
What would you ask him then?
Let's hasten to add. I would like to see what would happen in the future. I'd like to ask the Minister what would happen if the country's finances improve. Would it be acceptable to rebalance the contribution from the state with the contribution from our students.
Well, of course, what's called the contribution from the state is being delivered in a different way. It is through the loans that we're making to students, and we are accepting that because there will be graduates who have low-paid jobs or are out of the jobs market for whatever reason, that for every £1,000 we lend, there's £300 that we're not going to get back. And that's the correct decision. That's saying if people aren't able to pay back, we don't expect them to, but if they are earning more than £21,000, only at that point do they start paying back. And my view is that is a fair and progressive system. So I don't think actually any government would probably go back to the old model. I mean, after all, Labour introduced this type of scheme, but under them the threshold was £15,000. So we've actually increased the point at which people start having to pay back.
Maryam,
So
let's
we've
come to
improved
you.
it.
I mean, you're one of the victims. I mean, you will have to pay this.
Yeah.
How will you do it?
I mean, I can totally understand what you're saying, that, we'll be paying back when we're stable, at a stable position. But at the same time, for how long are we going to be paying back? When we're in our 40s, when we're in our 50s? That's just, we work so hard in life to get to that position, to get to university. And, is it really worth it? Is the investment worth it? So that's just something I'm contemplating at the moment.
I mean, we contemplate she's probably going to have to pay about £9,500 more in interest rates, let alone all the £9,000 she'll be paying for her fees.
First of all, I hope, it's for individuals to decide, but I profoundly believe that going to university is worth it, and I hope that you will try and succeed. On the payback, we took a deliberate decision that the problem with the system we inherited was that as you started paying back at £15,000, the costs were all being borne by people in their 20s and early 30s when they were trying to start, maybe get their first place on the property ladder, maybe start a family. And it was actually fairer to smooth it out so that the monthly repayments for everyone are lower. It does mean that you pay back for longer, but pay back when perhaps you're in your 30s and 40s and have a slightly higher income. So I actually think it's an improvement. The previous system was a really heavy burden on people in their 20s.
Emma, what about you? Can you afford this?
Well, I'm in year 12, so I should be waiting until the following year to think about university. But as a result of the increase in fees, I've decided to apply for university this year and go a year early, because I worked out that I would have to pay maybe, they say that it's going to be £83,000 you'll end up paying back if you've got a £39,000 loan for 3 years. Whereas I'll be doing a 4-year course, and that will be nearer to £100,000. That's what they've estimated is the average extra earnings that you get for going to university. So what would be the point in me going?
Well, for individuals, they do decide. I must say, I don't recognise those figures. I realise that there are lots of estimates around. I don't recognise that. But going to university is a fundamentally worthwhile thing to do. I think for individuals, if they've got the aptitude and the ability and they want to do it, I don't think that our funding arrangement should put them off, because it is simply an extra 9% on your income tax rate in any earnings above £21,000 until you've paid off the cost of your education. And I think that's reasonable.
Well, are you trying to get Emma to come to you because you're charging less?
We're charging less because we hear what the students are saying. We also think there'll be a price resistance above about £6,000.
Are you affected by what they're offering? I mean, you've got two Vice Chancellors there, one a little cheaper than the other.
Yeah, and there was a NUS survey last year which said that 2/3 of students would be put off by fees at £7,000. So it's going up way and beyond that. And if I don't go to university at £9,000, then I think that that employers will not employ me because I haven't gone to a top-rated university because of the fees.
Well, lots of things might happen, and I hope people aren't put off going to university. But I think, and I hope you will. It sounds like you're still applying. But remember, employers also sponsor people through university. Those type of arrangements, which have pretty much died out, they're coming back. We think there's going to be lots of different ways in which people get supported through university.
Michael.
Well, my message to all students would be you can afford to come to university irrespective of what the fees are, for the simple reason that the payback system is the same irrespective of the headline fee. So when you're earning £25,000, you will have to pay back £30 a month. That's the price of 2 movie tickets a month in London.
Well,
and if we just go on slightly beyond that, when you're earning £30,000, it's £62.50 a month, which is the price of filling your car up with petrol.
There is another important question, that is, can rich parents buy their way out of this system? I mean, could your parents afford just to throw it in upfront, pay 9,000?
Absolutely not. No, that's
But
what I'm
if they
trying to say. Yeah.
could, just for a moment, if they could, you'd take that and they wouldn't have to pay any interest rates or anything else.
Yes, we're keeping the current system, which is if people wish to pay direct, straight up out of their own money, they can without the loan scheme. But the loan scheme is at a rate below the normal a commercial loan. And as Michael rightly said, the repayment terms are such that it's really 9% of your income above 21,000. So in other words, it's not some penalty, the loan rate. It's a rate that we think should not put people off going to
Well, you'll be
university.
smiling because you've got lots of rich students at Leeds.
Well, I think the point is there is no such thing as a free higher education. The only question is, how are you going to pay? Are you going to pay through general taxation, through a graduate tax, or through the graduate contribution scheme?
Emma.
And if you do the sums, I think you'll find that the graduate contribution scheme is fairer over a lifetime.
You say that there's not free education, but there's still free education in Scotland. And if rich people can afford for them to pay off their students, and you do get the fee waivers for the lower income people, but for just the regular people who want to go to university, who want to earn more than 21 grand, which is when we start to get affected, they're going to be put off psychologically by the huge amount of debt that they're going to have when they come out of university.
I think we've just heard as a finale the squeezed middle. Minister, thank you very much indeed for coming in. And for all four of you, thank you very much for coming in.